On February 2, 2026, it was very cold in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, with temperatures near zero. Tens of thousands of people arrived at Gobbler's Knob, traveling in the dark for hours. They were not there for music or a rally. They came to see a groundhog. This was a very unusual reason to stand in freezing weather. That morning, Punxsutawney Phil, the famous groundhog, emerged from his burrow. He saw his shadow, meaning 6 more weeks of winter. Many in the crowd were unhappy. This event happens every year in America. It is a very old custom, with roots in ancient Europe. Groundhog Day is a strange celebration, an old folk story, a big public event, and a draw for tourists. In this report, we will examine the 2026 ceremony and learn where this tradition began. We will also ask a key question. Is there any scientific truth to the groundhog's predictions? We live in a modern world with advanced weather technology. Computers and satellites tell us about the weather. So why does this old folk superstition still draw global attention? Why do thousands gather every year for this animal's prediction? The old story. The story of Groundhog Day reaches back far in time, crossing many countries. It started centuries ago, long before any groundhog made a prediction. To understand this tradition, we must travel back to ancient Europe. The first part of this long journey begins with the old Celtic people.
They had a special calendar and marked 4 important days each year. One of these was Imbolc, which happened around February 1 and 2. This day was about predicting the weather for the coming spring. It was also connected to a goddess named Bridget. People watched for signs in nature, like animals coming out of their winter homes, to guess what the weather would be like. Over time, things changed. As Christianity grew, it blended with older customs. Imbolc slowly changed into a Christian holiday called Candlemas, but it kept the same date of February 2. On Candlemas, people lit many candles. They believed that if the sky was clear and sunny on this day, winter would last longer. If the day was cloudy, spring would come soon. This was a new idea, linking the brightness of the sun to more cold weather. Later, in the 1700s, German people moved to Pennsylvania in America. They brought their own version of this tradition with them. In Germany, they used a badger to predict the weather. They even called February 2 Badger Day. If the badger saw its shadow, it meant winter would stay longer, and the badger would go back into its hole. But in their new American home, badgers were not easy to find. So the German settlers needed a different animal. They found the groundhog. This animal was common in Pennsylvania and also slept through the winter. It was a good replacement for the badger.
People began to watch the groundhog on February 2nd to see if it saw its shadow. This local custom grew slowly, talked about among neighbors. How did this quiet, private tradition suddenly become a big event known all over the country? 3. The Big Day. The Big Day arrived on February 2nd, 2026. It was very cold, just 1 degree above zero in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Despite the freezing air, many thousands of people still came to Gobbler's Knob. These visitors came from many different countries to watch Punxsutawney Phil make his yearly weather forecast. This was the 140th annual celebration. The ceremony began with the inner circle, men wearing special top hats. They watched Phil closely as he came out from his cozy burrow. Phil then spoke in Groundhogese to the current president of the inner circle, who was the only one who understands this special language. After listening, the president told everyone Phil's prediction. Phil saw his shadow, meaning 6 more weeks of winter. Some people in the crowd booed, as they hoped for an early spring. The cold was so strong that Phil's handlers quickly brought him inside, not keeping him out for photos for too long. This year, Phil's prediction seemed very important. Weather experts had already said a polar vortex would bring very cold air to the East Coast. They were sure February would be colder than usual.
So, Phil's prediction of more winter matched what professional meteorologists were saying. This gave the old tradition a strange sense of being right for this year. Other groundhogs also made predictions across North America, creating a nationwide competition. Staten Island Chuck in New York also predicted 6 more weeks of winter. Buffalo Bert, General Beauregard Bo Lee, and Woody the Woodchuck all agreed with Phil. However, Woodstock Willie in Illinois and Dunkirk Dave in New York predicted an early spring. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro was at the event, calling it a valued celebration of the state's culture. Phil may have gotten it right this time, but was it just a lucky guess? What do the facts say about his accuracy over the past 140 years? 4. The real numbers. The charming story of Groundhog Day meets facts here. Scientists have studied the tradition carefully. The clear truth is, the groundhog's predictions do not work in a scientific way at all. There is no real connection between Phil seeing his shadow and the weather that truly follows in the weeks after Groundhog Day. Numbers from many studies show this clearly over a long period. Punxsutawney Phil has been right only about 39% of the time. This record goes back to 1887, which is when he first started giving forecasts. This means Phil is wrong much more often than he is right.
To make this easier to understand, if you just flipped a coin, it would be a better guesser. A simple coin toss would be right 50% of the time, which is much better than Phil's 39% accuracy. Many groups, including professional weather experts, have looked closely at Phil's past predictions. They all come to the same conclusion about his poor accuracy. For example, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA, did a special check. They ranked 19 weather-predicting animals from across the United States. They used real temperature data for the month of March each year, from 2005 to 2024, to see who was most accurate. Punxsutawney Phil was almost at the very bottom of this list. He ranked 17th out of 19 animals. His accuracy was only 35% in their careful study. But there are other animals that do much better at predicting the weather. Staten Island Chuck, for instance, lives in New York City. Chuck has a very impressive 85% success rate. This difference makes many people wonder, why is Phil, who is not very accurate at all, the most famous groundhog in the world? It remains a bit of a mystery, a strange fact about this tradition. We can also understand exactly why Phil is so often wrong in his predictions. He sees his shadow in most years. Because of this, his predictions are mostly for 6 more weeks of winter.
The tradition says that if the sun shines brightly on February 2nd and Phil sees his shadow, he takes that as a sign of bad weather. Then he goes back into his cozy hole. The problem is, February 2nd in Punxsutawney often has clear, cold mornings. These conditions naturally create shadows. So Phil seeing his shadow is common,
but it does not really mean winter will last another 6 weeks. The old custom confuses one sunny, shadow-making morning with a whole long-term forecast. The facts prove that it does not work as a true weather-predicting tool. So, if the groundhog's predictions are clearly not accurate, and science proves this, why does this old custom continue year after year? Why did it become so popular that it was even the subject of a beloved Hollywood movie, turning it into a very rich million-dollar industry? A famous animal. The Groundhog Day tradition became very famous, largely because of a movie. In 1993, a film called Groundhog Day was released. Actor Bill Murray starred in this comedy. The movie showed a man trapped, living the same day again and again. This film was a huge commercial success. It earned over $70 million at the box office and became the 13th highest-grossing film that year. Over time, it also became a cult classic. Before the film, only about 2,000 people typically came to Punxsutawney for Groundhog Day. After the movie, attendance quickly grew to about 10,000 people. Today, as many as 40,000 visitors gather on Gobbler's Knob each year. This is nearly 8 times more than the town's normal population. The film made many more people learn about this unique American holiday. The movie also created new tourism in other places. Interestingly, Groundhog Day was not filmed in Punxsutawney itself. It was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois. Now fans travel from across the country and even from other countries to see the recognizable landmarks featured in the film in Woodstock. Woodstock hosts its own annual multi-day Groundhog Day celebration each February. This draws thousands of visitors and brings tourism to the town all year, tied directly to the movie's legacy. The Groundhog Day event brings significant money to Punxsutawney. Each year, the city sees a massive increase in visitors, which pumps more than $1 million into the local economy. For the state of Pennsylvania as a whole, tourism is a vital industry. In 2024, Pennsylvania's tourism generated over $83 billion in economic impact. It supported more than 500,000 jobs and contributed $5 billion in state and local taxes. The state welcomed over 201 million visitors that year. Governor Josh Shapiro sees tourism as an important strategy for economic growth across all communities in Pennsylvania. So, while Hollywood films and growing tourism have made Groundhog Day a widely known public spectacle, a far more private and serious tradition continues in the background. This older custom works hard to keep the original culture and language alive, separate from the big public event. 6. A secret language. Beyond the big crowds and the famous prediction, Groundhog Day holds other, more private traditions. One charming story tells of Punxsutawney Phil's amazing long life. People say he has been the same groundhog since 1887. This would make him more than 139 years old. However, wild groundhogs usually live only 3 to 6 years. The Punxsutawney Groundhog Club says Phil drinks a special Groundhog Nog drink each fall. This magical drink, they say, gives him eternal life. In reality, when one Phil passes away, a new groundhog takes his place. But the name Phil and the story of his long life continue, making the myth a key part of the tradition. Deeper in Pennsylvania Dutch country, another important tradition lives. These are the Groundhog Lodges. These lodges are not for public show. They are secret social clubs created in the 1930s. Their main purpose is to save the Pennsylvania Dutch language. This special dialect came from German immigrants long ago, and now it is slowly fading away,
considered endangered. Members gather for meetings called versamlingen.
During these gatherings, only Pennsylvania Dutch is allowed. If someone speaks an English word, especially when speaking to the group, they must pay a small fine for each word. The meetings are full of life, with formal ceremonies that honor the groundhog. There are also weather reports, traditional songs, short plays, and shared meals. All of these activities happen completely in the Dutch language. These lodges are a special example of how folk traditions can serve a bigger goal. They show how Groundhog Day helps to keep a unique language and culture from disappearing in modern America. It is a remarkable way to preserve heritage. But while these communities work hard to keep their past alive, a new challenge is appearing. A modern debate about animal welfare has begun. This debate questions the care of the animals at the center of the event and could threaten to remove the living heart of the tradition forever. 7. A new problem. A new problem for Groundhog Day started to grow. Some people began to think about the animal itself. They asked if the tradition was fair to Punxsutawney Phil. In 2026, a group called PETA, which works for animal rights, sent a letter. They wrote to Tom Dunkel, the president of the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club. PETA wanted to change the tradition. They asked to replace Phil with a hologram. Ingrid Newkirk, who started PETA, said that groundhogs are shy animals. They do not like many people, loud noises, or human smells.
She wrote that Phil is scared every year. People hold him up and wave him around. PETA felt this was not good for the animal. So PETA offered a new idea. They wanted a large, modern 3D picture of a groundhog. This hologram could appear on the stage at Gobbler's Knob. It could even speak its weather prediction. This would stop Phil from feeling stress. But the leaders in Pennsylvania did not like this idea. Governor Josh Shapiro quickly said no. He posted a picture of Phil on social media, writing, "Don't tread on me." This showed that he strongly supported the tradition. PETA had tried before. In 2025, they offered a special vegan cake. The cake would show blue for winter or pink for spring. But the Groundhog Club said no to that idea too. This discussion brings up an important question. As we learn more about animals, how do we keep old traditions? And how do we also make sure animals are treated well? It is not an easy question to answer. But many people are now thinking about the good of the animals in these old customs. 8. The real meaning. This story has shown us many things about Groundhog Day. We know it has a long history, from old European traditions to a famous American holiday. We have also seen that science says the groundhog's prediction is not usually right. Still, thousands of people gather each year to watch Punxsutawney Phil. Why do they do this? What is the real meaning of this strange tradition? The answer is simple. Groundhog Day is not truly about forecasting the weather. It is about something deeper. It is about people coming together. It is about hope, especially when winter feels long and cold. Humans have always needed to mark the passing of time, to celebrate the end of one season and the start of another. This tradition helps us do that. We can see this meaning in other celebrations around the world. On the same date, February 2, many cultures have their own special days. In Ireland and Scotland, people celebrate St. Brigid's Day. In France, it is Chandeleur. In Spain, it is Candelaria. The Czech Republic has Hromnitz. All these days come from a very old Celtic festival called Imbolc.
These events, like Groundhog Day, are ways to look forward. They help people feel that spring is coming, even during the coldest days. They mark the journey from dark winter to lighter spring. In our world today, we have advanced weather reports and computers. We can know the forecast for days ahead. But still, the groundhog brings people together. Its value is not in telling us if spring will be early. Its real value is in the shared ritual, the sense of community. It reminds us that long ago, people looked to nature and animals to guess what was next. They did it with hope. So Groundhog Day is more than just a funny tradition. It is a human tradition. It shows how old ideas can change but still stay important. It helps us find joy and connection in the simple rhythm of the year.
What do you think is the most important reason Groundhog Day is still celebrated today? Please share your thoughts.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.